on this Friday afternoon. Happy Valentine's Day, Tim. Happy Valentine's Day, Carol.
Happy Valentine's Day to you guys. You might soon be looking at instead robots, humanoid robots from Meta platforms sitting in our seats rather than us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Or we might just get some blow-up dolls. We're not sure which way.
The analog version.
Okay.
The analog division. Well done, well done. Hey, you know what's interesting about this trade? Look, we're pretty much flat on the S&P 500, but you dig inside the index, you've got some names with some really strong gains or declines. Airbnb up 14%, and then GoDaddy down about 14%. So you really got to kind of dig down below the surface, as they say.
I was going to say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Romaine.
No,
what were you going to say?
No.
We're
No?
a little wacky over here. I don't know about you guys, but we are. It's wacky
Are
Friday.
you high on Valentine's Day chocolate? Do you have a caffeine rush or something?
No, I like was eating
She's
a
high on
banana.
wine. You know, Fridays are wine day for.
No.
Yeah, it is.
We actually don't have any wine coming into the studio
So
today.
you just hold up a rotten banana? Is
No, I had half my banana already. That's all I've
So
had.
just
so
a
far.
sugar high, that's all.
Yeah. Anyway, what's interesting for you guys?
I can get on board with that. You know what's interesting for me, and I don't want to, jump ahead to bonds, but you look at the yield on the 10-year, and it's come down 1 basis point over the past week. But that really does not tell the story for what happened this week.
It does not here. Bond market volatility is high. A big downdraft in the dollar this week, which also helped to aid the stock market rally. The VIX tamped down here on this Friday afternoon. And if you're into Bitcoin here, still camped out right around that 97,000 level. As we get the closing bells here in New York, the daily numbers, not really a whole lot to look at here. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is lower on the day by about 170 points. That's only a drop of about 0.4%, but that's still going to put the Dow in a position where it's going to finish the week higher by 0.5%. The S&P, we're just going to call it unchanged on the day, 6,114 and change as we wait for the numbers to settle. Flat on the day, up about a 1.5% on the week. The Nasdaq higher on the week by about 2.5%, including a 0.4% gain on the day. The Russell 2000, though, sitting it out on the day, down about 2 points or 0.1%.
All right, guys, kind of an even split in the S&P 500 in terms of up and down moves. But I do want to point out, for the week overall, Scarlet, Super Micro is your best performer, 32% higher. Intel is up 23% for the week overall, which is pretty wild. So I just thought kind of some interesting moves on some of the names for the week.
Yeah, and that plays into what happened on the day, too. Let's take a look at the IMAP. Your best performing sector is tech, and that is being powered by Supermicro, as Carol was just telling us. I know that that's probably going to be in her gainers list. But tech up 0.6%, communication services up 0.4%, financials just modestly higher. The laggards include consumer staples, dragged lower by P&G, healthcare also down about 1%, and utilities lower by 0.5%.
All right, guys, let's get to some of the individual gainers. And I did not put Supermicro, so do not judge me. But Roku is on that list. It's up about 40%. At its highs today, guys, it was up almost 21%. The company, as we know, reported after the close last night. Fourth quarter results beat expectations. Analysts coming out noting that platform revenues in the quarter were very strong. At least 2 analysts coming out upgrading the stock, and a lot more raising the price target. And check it out, some rather dramatically. Wells upping the price target to $129 from $74. Evercore ISI to $105 from $75. Stock closing just about $99 a share on this Friday. Airbnb, that is your number one gainer in both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 today, up 14%. Surging the most in a couple of years. Company issued an upbeat forecast. We broke that down last night, too. Upbeat forecast for the first 3 months of this year, citing continued strong demand after a bustling holiday travel season. The company sees the key metric of nights and experience booked growing at a relatively stable pace compared with the same period last year, which saw a roughly 8.5% gain, not including leap day. And then one more for you, Alibaba. Watching kind of the names out of China in a big way. The ADR is up 4% in today's session, hitting a 52-week high. It's up more than 40% year to date. Of interest, I think. Chinese President Xi planning to chair a symposium to boost private sector sentiment, likely to happen on Monday. This is from Reuters, citing 3 identified people with knowledge of the meeting. In attendance, expected at that meeting, include Alibaba's co-founder Jack Ma, Tencent CEO, Xiaomi's CEO, and also a Huawei executive. So kind of watching what China is doing potentially when it comes to their big tech sector. But this one certainly it's some outperformance.
Can I throw out an honorable mention?
Yes,
Meta
please.
Platforms up for 20th day in a row, a new record for the company.
What did it gain today?
Enter humanoid robots.
Today.
Oh, over
1.1%. Yeah. Hey, stocks that didn't gain today, and in fact lost, Applied Materials down more than 8%. The company issued a revenue forecast which is below the average Wall Street estimate. The company expects export rules to reduce fiscal 2025 revenue by about $400 million, about half of the reduction coming from the current period, mainly affecting its service business in China. I'm also watching shares of Intel for a few reasons. Bloomberg News reported earlier today that TSMC is considering taking a controlling stake in Intel's factories. This at the request of Trump administration's officials. The talks are in the early stages. It's unclear whether Intel is open for a transaction, but the deal would help maintain U.S. leadership and boost American manufacturing. Also, Intel shares, at least earlier in the session, were on track for their biggest weekly gain. At one point going back to 1982, at another point going all the way back to the year 2000, the stock has rallied more than 20% so far this week. A lot of that bullishness coming from reports of the U.S. government possibly getting involved with a plan involving both Intel and TSMC. And then finally, SoundHound shares down 28% today.
You weren't sure you wanted to do this
I know.
one.
You know, it was the most actively traded stock today, so that's why I ended up doing it. It was among a handful of stocks that moved pretty significantly to the downside after we learned in NVIDIA's 13F that the company had exited its stake in SoundHound. It's the worst day going back more than 2 years. It's seen a rally over the last few months, though, so only the lowest going back to December. It's about a $4 billion market cap company. They do AI, speech recognition, natural language processing software, and the like.
And I'll just throw an honorable mention there. Cal-Maine, the egg giant there, having its worst day since 2022, because guess what? Apparently Zoetis getting a conditional license for an avian flu vaccine here, so maybe we'll get some relief from egg prices there, which of course has benefited that stock. Meanwhile, let's take a quick look at bonds here. A second straight day of decline in yields, leading to a sixth straight decline in yields, at least for the benchmark 10-year Treasury, back below that 4.5% level, 4.4762 and change here. You saw similar moves on a daily and a weekly basis here for your 2-year and as well as your 30-year yield.
All right, here's a couple of the stories that have popped up on our radar, and this is adults apparently tapping into kids' meals. A little stat for you all. The number of orders for kids' meals placed by adults rose 28% last year compared with 2019, while overall restaurant traffic declined over the same period. I got to tell you, there's nothing like I like as much as being on a road trip and then kind of going through a drive-through at McDonald's and getting a Happy Meal. A little bit of chicken McNugget, a little French fry.
And a gift.
And a gift and a toy. I gotta love it.
Carol's not the only one. This story in the Wall Street Journal points out that some fast food chains are trying to actively steer adults who are nostalgic for this stuff to kids' meals. Wendy's offered a combo meal around Halloween that was targeted at kidults, which I didn't know was a thing. Kidults. That included a collectible toy.
Romaine, you're a kidult, aren't you? Do you wear those Crocs and things?
No recognition of that
is
whatsoever.
Is he frozen?
Romaine, can you hear us?
What is
the humanoid is here.
What is he doing?
I've been replaced. I was still trying to processing kid adults, or I don't know what you kidults, whatever you just said there. I mean, can I just say though too, I kind of like some of these kids' meals.
I do too.
I feel like some portion, I was just home in the Midwest, and where you kind of forget like portion sizes out there are like ridiculous. Like it's literally like 3 days worth of food on a plate. So sometimes the kids' meals are better. Not only are they cheaper, but it's more digestible, just regular food.
Yeah, but there's a lot of chicken tenders with those kids' meals.
No, you have to expand your horizons. Scarlet Fu. Look down the kids' menu.
I'm paying for tuition for 2 kids, so I can't pay for anything right now. And that's and a lot of parents who are looking at that, including their children, are now looking overseas to European schools where even as a foreign student and you're paying the premium for that, it's still a lot cheaper than going to school in the U.S. For instance, $40,000 in the U.K., for instance, as opposed to almost $100,000 here in the U.S. And you can get a degree in 3 years as opposed to 4 years.
I love this story because it just shows you the ingenuity of people. Obviously, you can get a quality education and obviously do it a lot cheaper. Do you remember that story? It was it was maybe last year or something about that guy who was going to school in Canada who was actually flying from his one city to the other every day because it was actually cheaper to get a flight daily than to get a dorm room and pay room and board there.
Yeah, he just causes himself a lot of drama and anxiety and having to go back and forth. But yes, you do save money.
He seemed happy.
I have to say, talking with parents who are looking at colleges, more and more that the conversation is talking about looking at schools outside the United States. And this story was really fascinating too, as they talk about kind of the political climate too, the divisive climate, that maybe that's why some people want to kind of send their kids outside the United States.
Who's going to need college when the robots are just doing everything for us?
Wow. It's a very dark show today.
That's all I know.
It's Valentine's Day, Tim. Perk up.
Romaine, could you do that again where you were quiet and didn't move?
No, I don't know. I don't remember that.
Happy Valentine's Day. Heart to all of you guys. All right, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We call it the closing bell. We will see you again, not on Monday. It's a holiday, everybody. We'll see you same time, same place on Tuesday.